What's poppin', people? It's your main man, Manley Miller.
And it's the king of Clearview himself, Javier Acosta.
This is Quarantine Cuisine.
Come get spiritually fed while you stuck in bed.
Celebration Church, Kenner Campus Podcast.
I like that hat, Pastor Manley.
Yeah, a friend gave it to me.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to remember.
Hey,
I was thinking.
I told you I was going to wear the hat the next time I saw you.
You a model man, you know that?
Look, I got a strong hat game. And this one fits in the repertoire, but it's white, bro. You can't just be busting this out.
Well, I appreciate it, though. You're a man of your word. It would have been easy to forget about that.
No, I ain't going to forget about that, man.
Amen,
I told
brother.
you I got you.
Hey, well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You got your stimulus check yet?
Did I?
Did you?
Already spent it.
You took that
It's gone.
payday loan out on it right quick?
It's gone, bro.
What you spent it on? My question was, what you go spend it on? But you already spent it.
Reese's eggs.
Reese's. You had the biggest
I got all
Easter egg hunt.
I got all of them.
Well, you got a lot of kids, so I'm sure an Easter egg hunt would have been expensive. Fill up the yard for all of them.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
What you did with it?
Huh?
What you did with it?
I don't know. I ain't done nothing with it yet. Just sitting in the couch chilling. I ain't really spend it.
You buried it?
Huh?
You buried it?
What I look like? I got one bag. I went and buried it in the back.
Backyard.
Nah,
Times
bro.
are crazy right now.
Nah, bro. I invest my talents. In Jesus' name. I ain't burying nothing.
Well, if you could spend it, if there was nothing, if you could do anything you wanted with it, what would you do?
Well,
What's the first thing you would do? Now, you don't even have to say, I'm going to spend all of it. What's the first thing you could do?
Well, we got a plan. We fixing up the house. So
Okay.
it's probably going to get invested in the house somewhere.
Gotcha.
You know?
You going to get that bidet you always wanted?
Bro, a bidet is where it's at. A bidet is where it's at. You ain't never been so clean in your life
Yeah.
as you get with a bidet. Oh, yeah, me and bidet, we tight.
Yeah. You got one?
Huh?
You got one at home?
Nah,
already?
I might spend it.
Hey, you deserve it. You deserve it. So this kind of leads me into my
How's this lead into anything? But go ahead.
my thing today, which I'm titling The Quarantine Dream, all right?
All right, the quarantine dream.
The quarantine dream.
Yeah.
And really, I can't really find a good segue, but if I had to make one, it would be, the Bible says where you spend your money, where your treasure is, your heart is also there, right?
Okay.
And I think you can look at someone's bank account and tell a lot about them by just seeing where it is they spend most of their money. Not saying you can tell everything about them, but you can tell a good little bit about where everybody's going, what their favorite stores is. If you looked at my account, you would know my favorite thing to do is eat out. You know what I mean? But one of the other things I kind of realize is that people do what they do and the way they manage things is also a decision they make today that's leading them into a tomorrow, right? And I guess what I'm trying to figure out is just the whole idea of how to live the quarantine dream and what your quarantine dream is. And to me, we are all in this place right now where it's like, I don't want to say it's a reset and a restart, but it kind of is, right? Everything is kind of like getting shifted around.
Yeah, it's certainly forcing evaluation to happen.
Yeah, right? You have to have a perspective shift after everything that's gone on. You have to sit down and evaluate, what was I doing before this and where am I today, right? With everything stopping, you kind of have to ask yourself, where am I today? And the next question is, well, where do I want to be tomorrow? And to me, the most important thing in becoming who you want to be tomorrow is having vision. Would you say that you agree with that? Would you say that that's one of the most important things? Like, how do you, if you want to be a better you tomorrow, would you say vision is important?
What you're saying makes me think about the story of creation. It would be easy to say God took one day Sabbath out of the 7, right? He worked for 6 days creating the world, and then he rested the 7th day.
Yeah.
But there's something that it says at the end of each day that I think is a daily Sabbath moment.
Mm-hmm.
And he says at the end of each day that God looked at it and saw that it was good.
Yeah.
And then day 2 came.
Right.
Well, what would have happened if he looked at it and saw that it was bad?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Right.
Of course it's God. God makes everything that's good. But I mean, just the fact that he asked that. He said, man, I looked at it and I saw that it was good. And I think that on day 7, his rest day wasn't just about resting. It was about evaluation.
Yeah.
And I think when you say it's a time of reset, for me, this has been a time of deep evaluation. I mean, me and my wife been talking, And I thank God for Dana because a lot of times she's the spiritual grit that we need. She's the spiritual sandpaper in my life. She's the one that keeps me from being a status quo and just saying, well, I'm just going to sleep these days away. She's always going like, well, how can we leverage this time? You know, we're never going to have this time again. We don't have our kids. We ain't got to go to school. They're doing schoolwork maybe 3 hours a day. They got time available. There's nowhere to go any night. There's no busyness. You know, how are we going to leverage this time in order to really build our relationship with God as a family and to spend time with our kids and do all the things that we need to do? How do we live the dream that we want? And you can't live the dream until you first evaluate where you really at.
Right.
And a time like this causes you to look at your life and say, is it good? And we tend to think about that as binary, right? Like, well, my life's either good or it's bad. But really, it's more than that. It's categorical, right? Like, you can be doing really good in your finances, and you can be doing really good in your health, and you can be doing really good in your marriage, but you're doing terrible in your parenting or terrible in your work ethic, or you're not doing very good in keeping your house organized and orderly or whatever it might be. And then you can flip that. You could be doing good in many other areas, but not good in others. I think really, how do you look at your life and say, man, what is good and what is not? And what changes could I make to what's not while I have time on my hands?
Yeah. You know, I always think about it in the sense of like Disney World, right? When you go to Disney World, sometimes you got to go, or like Jazz Fest, if you've been to Jazz Fest. Going to Jazz Fest and figuring out where I am on that little map is about the hardest thing in the world to do. I'm like, I'm there for like 7 minutes. I'm like, okay, there's that booth. And then I see this and wait, I'm over. And it takes me forever to figure out. But the reality is, in order for me to figure out where I want to go, I need to figure out where I am. And I think that this is a great time for people to look at themselves and say, where am I? Right. Yeah. And where do I want to go? Because the reality is I could start heading in one direction that's leading me in the complete opposite of where I really want to go.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to, right, like, is it good?
Yeah.
Is where you at good?
Yeah.
Would you call it good? Is that what you would say? Is it good? Is my life good? Is my finances good?
And that's a hard question to ask, right? Because you got to be real with yourself.
Well, you know, I think I was on Reddit the other day, maybe 2 days ago, and somebody posted a question, and it was like, no stupid questions. And they basically were asking, like, how do people that have a lot of kids afford to have a lot of kids?
Yeah.
And that basically is what the question was. And I was looking at it, and I was like, man, I'll never comment on it. I was like, I'm going to answer this. I'm going to put in an answer and just tell them how I do this and how I line everything up. But the truth is, before we did the Dave Ramsey thing last year, I wouldn't have been in the same position. You know, you opened this up asking me where I was going to spend the money. The truth is, I can spend it wherever I want because Dana and I, over the last year, have taken some real disciplined steps to get our finances in order. And so I really don't need it for any particular thing. I have a plan to pay for all my vacations this year. I got a plan to you know.
Where you going?
Huh? Nowhere now. Nowhere now. Uh-huh. I'm going to the other side of Driftwood. Yeah. Walking.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like I got all my Christmas money planned to have up. So I really don't need the money. So it's like I get to spend it anywhere that I want to spend it.
Yeah.
And if I need to spend it on groceries and doing those things, then so be it. I can do it. But that's been the other interesting thing too, is like even in the midst of quarantine, we able to still have a budget because we kind of know what we got planned. Yeah. But the only reason we got there is because we got real honest in assessing where we were at.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing people don't want to do is they don't want to say where they really at. They don't want to tell you exactly how many pounds they weigh, exactly how much money's in their bank account. They don't want to give you the details, but you got to know those details for yourself so that you can know where you're really at.
Yeah, you got to own your own dream, right?
Exactly.
Like you have your dream. I can't do anything for you to achieve your dream. I can encourage you, sure. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to make the decisions. You could have looked at your finances in that time and said, man, this is kind of a mess. Or, hey, it might not even been that bad. Maybe it was just okay. And you could have decided, I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. But I don't think that would have led you to where you are right now with your finances, which I think you would say is a much better place than you were a year ago.
I always watch like that stuff, and they're like, yeah, I got out of, I got debt free. I paid off some thousands of dollars. And I'm like, man, that's not even possible.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at this going, man, I just did that.
Yeah.
I did what I thought was impossible. And that's what happens when you have some discipline. When you got some discipline, all of a sudden that thing that seems so impossible becomes real easy for you to accomplish because you got honest about where you were and you decided where you wanted to go and where you wanted to be. Isn't that what having a dream is all about, is seeing what the future can be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like this is from the Lord right here, but the first step to achieving your dream is waking up.
Yeah.
Is waking up.
Yeah.
Waking up and looking around and saying, here are the decisions I'm making. Here's where I'm at. I'm unhappy. I'm not happy with the cake, so let me change the recipe. And that's the reality. It's like we could sit here and say, oh, I got these dreams all day, and that can be even motivational and encouraging, but the reality is you got to be able to know where you are is the first step to really achieving that vision, I guess you can say.
All right, so knowing where you are takes inventory.
Yeah.
You got to do inventory. It's amazing. It will blow your mind how many businesses in the United States of America don't have any inventory. They have no idea how much stuff they're supposed to have. And that's why theft is one of the greatest costs of business. And the reason people get away with stealing from business owners is because they don't have no inventory. They have no idea how much they're supposed to have, because doing inventory is a tedious task. But until you find out what you have, you can't get where you want to go. Period. The end of story. I agree with you. I think waking up's the very first thing. And we got all the time. This is a great inventory time.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we literally are just sitting there doing nothing. I went to move some pictures into Dropbox because Dana wanted friends and family to be able to access some pictures she had taken. And she just been taking, pictures with this device, with this phone. It got the SD card in it. Dude, I pulled out the SD card to see how many pictures she's got. She's got pictures on the SD card for 8 years.
Yeah.
It's 90 gigabytes worth of pictures. And I'm like, where am I supposed to put this?
Yeah, right.
And it's like, how do you amass that much?
Yeah.
One day at a time. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's something like 36,000 images. Wow. One day at a time, one click at a time. Mm-hmm. If you would have set out and said, I'm going to take 36,000 pictures, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, I had no idea what was on that SD card until I actually plugged it in and began to take inventory.
Right.
And it can seem overwhelming at first, but that's what needs to happen. And I think when you say waking up, that's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
Wake up and look around and see what you actually got.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about this the other day. I think I was talking to you about it, how we haven't been spending any money eating out. And so even though I've spent maybe double what I usually spend at the grocery store when we go and get groceries, somehow, some way, I actually have more money.
It's because you're not eating out.
Right.
You're not going to the movies.
Right.
You're not going to any events. You're not paying admission for this. You're not out buying snacks and Cokes and all of these things.
Usually I'm trying to get to the 15th, and I'm like, Lord, come on, let the 15th come. But this time around, I kind of looked, me and Victoria were looking at our bank account, and I'm like, man, this ain't that bad. And what it made me realize is, before, if you would have asked me, do I eat out a lot? Nah, not really. Yeah. Before, if you would have asked me if I spend a lot of money doing these kinds of things, nah, I don't spend no money. Now I'm looking at it like, yo, we got to even after this finishes, we got to tighten up if we got to.
But see, here's the whole deal, right? Is that like you're becoming aware of a reality that was always there.
Yep.
And when you become aware of the reality and where you're actually at, the day that clicks in your head, boom, now you can wake up. See, most people know where they want to go. Yeah. They just have no idea how to get there because they don't know where their starting point is.
Sure.
Right? And there's a path to your dream no matter where you're at. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's harder.
Yeah.
But I was like you said about the 15th. You ever been like, man, we got to be close to the 15th, and then you look at what day it is and it's the 9th?
Yeah, yeah.
You're like,
it's
no,
like the 4th.
Lord, it's like 7 more days.
Yeah.
How did I spend that much money in 9 days?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that comes down to having your eyes open and being aware and being awake. It's like in the Dave Ramsey thing, one of the things we started doing is we started using cash.
Yeah.
For groceries, for gas, for eating out, and for miscellaneous. That's the 4 categories of cash that we have. Mm-hmm. And, it's interesting when you got that cash in front of you, you know how much you got left in that category at all times because you can check it at any moment. And that's what it's all about, is giving you inventory, because that inventory helps you to get where you need to be. Yeah. And because inventory is tedious, the time to really take it is when you got time on your hands. And I think all of us have more time on our hands than we're accustomed to having. I mean, even me, it's like cutting sports out of television. Man, you know how much time that's giving me?
Yeah.
Like, I got time on my hands. I'm sitting around listening to worship music more than I ever have.
Sure.
Reading my Bible more than I ever have. Studying, learning things about my relationship with the Lord. God's revealing things. I've been watching sermons. I used to watch sermons of other pastors all the time. You know, and I haven't been doing that a lot lately because we're just so busy and got 4 kids and, you know, big church and all of this stuff. Now it's like, man, I can focus on all of these things. It's kind of great. I kind of like where we at.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk about this. You know, I had a vision for this episode to be about vision and vision casting and receiving vision. But I really feel like what we're talking more about is waking up and assessing where you really are. And I think we'll continue on with this conversation for the next time about vision. But I guess what are some practical ways we can, in a sense, wake up so that we can achieve the dream that we have for ourselves? Well, what are some practical things?
You know, it's interesting you say that because maybe that's part 2 of this. But I think vision comes down to 2 things, right? Vision comes down to, can you see where you want to go, but can you also see where you already are?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because both of that is vision. Because you ever talk to somebody, it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where they think they're amazing, but they're not. It's like they, you know, like the people that go on American Idol and they're like, oh, I'm going to be the best ever. And you hear them sing and you're like, man, you terrible. Like, how could you think that you could sing?
Yeah.
It's like that is a big part of the problem of the vision equation is that people don't have a healthy sense of where they really are in life.
So how do we get those healthy senses?
I think it starts with getting honest.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable, taking your pride down a notch, maybe asking somebody.
Yeah, I think you definitely got to ask some people.
Well, you know,
and you can't ask people who are infatuated or impressed by you is what I've learned.
You got to ask the people that going to give you the honest answer. But, you know, somebody who's a mentor to me said to me, why is it so hard for you to be humble?
I remember saying that. Just kidding.
And I was like, I thought I was a pretty humble person.
Yeah.
So I went and talked to my wife and my dad. They were sitting at the dining room table. And I said, hey, can I ask y'all an honest question? Would you describe me as a humble person? And they both started busting out laughing.
They LOL'd in your face?
Oh, in my face. And I'm like, okay, man. Like, really? Like, y'all. And so we talked about it. And I said, well, this is why I think I'm humble. They said, well, we see that, but you got to see these parts too. And I said, okay. And then I said to them, I said, well, give me somebody that you would describe as humble.
Yeah.
And my wife said, well, I think Pastor Lance is humble.
Okay.
And I said,
that was after they said my name?
No, they did not bring you up at all. Not the King of Clivia.
So they said Pastor Lance.
Yeah, and I said, well, what is it about him that makes you think he's humble? And they said, because he never feels like he's inconvenienced. Well, I always feel the need to let you know how I'm being inconvenienced.
Yeah, you do.
And so, it's like, I know that about me. So it was like, I was able to go, okay, now I can admit where I'm at. Now somebody gave me feedback to see what it looks like. And I've got a roadmap and a path to get where I want to get to, which is, man, the next time something's inconvenient for me, how am I going to respond to it and handle it? And then the next time I was inconvenienced, I said something, but the difference was that this time after I said it, I was like, I wish I wouldn't have said that. I wish I wouldn't have did that.
Yeah.
And so it started this process in me of trying to make these changes happen. But I think it starts with getting honest and assessing where you are. And ask some people that are close to you to give you some honest and real and genuine feedback.
Which is hard.
And if they give you a compliment, tell them, no, I don't want no compliments right now. I'm not looking for compliments, but you got to be thick-skinned enough to handle it. If you don't want to know, don't ask.
Yeah, you can't push back, right? This happened with me the other day. My wife and I, it was like a Saturday night, maybe a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday night. I was scrolling through Facebook, and I saw they had like some online date night thing with the guy who wrote the 5 love languages, Gary Chapman, I think. And I was like, oh, okay. It was like $10. And I was thinking, man, if I do this, my wife going to be just glad that I did something out of the usual to try to do a date night. So we put the kids down and watched this thing online. It was all right. And it was like an hour long. And so afterwards, we just started talking, and we went back and did the 5 love languages. And, I had been praying and asking the Lord, I just said, Lord, I want to be a better husband. During this time, we've been talking about this. I want to come out a better husband, a better father, a better friend. I want to do all these things. And so I had been praying about that. And so I just kind of, as we were talking, I said, okay, how am I doing fulfilling your love languages? And I'm thinking in my mind, like,
I'm killing it.
Because hers is like acts of service. And I'm like, yo, I am killing it right now. I'm cleaning. I'm doing all these things. I'm watching the kid. Like, this is I'm amazing. She's about to say her love tank is overflowing. And essentially, she tells me I'm doing terrible. You know what I mean? It's like
bone dry.
Yeah,
The light
exactly.
been on for 2 weeks.
She guzzling out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I kind of like shut down for a second. And then as like I'm just listening, she's like, "Why you look so depressed?" And I'm like, "I'm just listening." That's all, you know.
My expectations have been destroyed.
But the reality is I could sit there and get bitter, or I can get better. And in the moment, I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bitter. You know, I'm like, I always joke with her and say it's just never enough. You know, I don't know if you ever watched the Greatest Showman. You know that song, Never Enough.
Yeah.
I started singing that song.
No, you didn't.
So yeah, she was a little mad at me about that, but
This
you know,
is the greatest show.
but afterwards, I had to sit there and accept it and say, okay, I have to realize that, okay, if she said this is how she feels, and I asked her opinion. I opened that door, so I got to get better out of it, right? And it's a wake up call, and nobody likes to get waken up. I like to sleep. Right? You like to sleep. We don't like when our kids run in and jump on top of us and wake us up. But the reality is that's what everyone needs right now is a wake-up call to say, here's where you are. And you got to ask the people. You got to, man, if you're a husband right now, you should go and ask your wife, how am I doing as a husband? How am I doing leading spiritually? How am I doing loving you? How am I doing as a father? And I know my wife is going to be honest with me. I know your wife going to be honest with you too, right?
My wife is, but if you got a wife that ain't, go ask, with your wife involved, right?
Yeah.
Go call your wife's friend and ask your wife's best friend.
Yeah. That's the next
level. You get the real truth out.
That's the next level.
Because they can't stand you. If you've been a bad husband,
yeah,
they can't stand you. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So call them, ask them, call your pastor, right? I think call your pastor, call your life group leader and say, man, how can I grow spiritually? That's the reality, right?
Yeah, and I think I would recommend that people do what I do. When a person says, well, you're not this. Well, who's a person that you would describe that's like that?
Yeah.
What is it about them that will make you describe them that way? Find the characteristics so that you can understand what it looks like to be different, because I think that gives you something to aim for. If the only thing you get is, well, you're not patient. Well, I can name these 5 areas where I'm patient. Yeah, but I can name 15 where you're not. All right, well, what does that look like, right? Like, who's a patient person?
Yeah.
Who you think's a patient person, and how do they act in situations that's different than how I act? You can learn a lot out of it.
Yeah, so this is the first step to the quarantine dream, is evaluate where you at. Wake up, smell the roses. I don't know, is that what some people say? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's more like get hit with the smelling.
Yeah.
Smelling the roses is like enjoy your life.
Oh, okay, never mind. Don't do that. You're gonna have to go smell your farts or something like that. Is that like another?
No, that's terrible.
No,
that's
just
terrible.
Forget that I said that. But the reality is go and wake up, find out where you at, make some assessments, right?
That's it.
And then I'm going to go and do that today. Well, I already did it a couple weeks ago.
Do it again,
bro.
bro.
I got to do it again.
Why don't you ask me? I got some feedback.
Oh, wonderful. This has been another episode of Quarantine Cuisine. We hope you leaving fresh and full. Be sure to subscribe on podcast and Spotify. You can also find us on Facebook, Celebration Church Kenner. See you next time.